We're back at it, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Regular Guy Vikings Hour. It's been kind of a long week. I'm finally back at you. I'm recording now Wednesday night. You'll see this Thursday morning, unless you're a night owl like me. I wanted to figure some things out, right? So I was kind of going back through. I was fixing some of my old thumbnails. I was kind of figuring out how to create chopped up videos and stuff. And I have three segments that I want to talk about. I have one thing I want to talk about, and that is the Vikings 49ers games. But I have three segments I'm going to go through, and they are going back through what I call my live notes that I make during the game. Then I'm going to go back through and I'm going to detail all the scores that I had for all the players after rewatching the game myself. And then the final thing I'm going to do is what I'm calling my go look, which I pull out 5 plays, and I've actually got them all chopped up into a video, and I'm actually going to go through them one by one just to kind of talk about some really interesting plays that I really enjoyed from that game. So let's just before I get started, I just want to talk about how I'm just continuing to try and build this channel, trying to build just a brand, I guess. I'm trying to do something here, add maybe a unique perspective in the Vikings. You can call it a podcast or whatever, in the Vikings podcasting world. So I'm really hopeful that I can start to gain a little bit more. I can gain a few more people to start coming in and watching my stuff. And so I just really hope that you enjoy what you're hearing and seeing. And if you could just at some point give me a thumbs up or give me a subscription to just keep moving this thing in the right direction, I'd really appreciate it. So how about that win, right? 23-17 over the 49ers. I love it. What a way to start off the year 2-0. I'm so excited about this. And the first thing I want to get to is I want to talk about some of the notes that I made live during the game, okay? And again, this goes back to something that I talked about last week, which was that I hate the deferral, okay? And once again, Coach KO won the toss, and he deferred yet again, and I was just really nervous about that because I just thought, here we go, the 49ers are going to march the ball down the field, and we're going to regret it. But as it turns out, no, we didn't. We did not regret it, and so I'm just so happy about that. And so I'm going to kind of have to make peace with that, I think, because I just think that the analytics state, hey, if you win the toss, you defer. And so I think the KOC is a guy who subscribes to the analytics, and so I'm just going to have to get used to it. But I do have this feeling that at some point that call is going to backfire us. But anyway, I digress. That's just something, again, I got to make peace with. I was really bummed out, especially for the home opener, to see so much red in the stands. It felt like it was 50-50 out there sometimes. I heard 49ers chants at one point. That was disturbing, right? And so one of the shows that I watch personally to maybe get more Vikings information and stuff like that is Purple Daily. And I was listening to Phil and Judd talk about it, and Judd was also kind of annoyed by the fact that there were so many 49ers fans in the crowd. And then Phil kind of made this point about how, after McCarthy got hurt, maybe there were some local Minnesotans who were trying to get some extra coin to maybe help extend that Minnesota summer, right? Take one more trip or something like that. And they thought, that 49ers game, that's going to be a loss. So we'll just go ahead and sell that one ticket. And lo and behold, 49ers fans travel well, do they not? And so, yeah, way too much red in the stands. So I hope we don't see that again this year. Hey, right off the bat, I've been kind of down on Blake Cashman. I know that. I've talked about him quite a bit. I feel like he looked slow. I didn't trust him in coverage. He completely proved me wrong in coverage in particular. He had a handful of really nice plays in coverage. He looked much quicker out there. And, he was literally all over the field all game long. And I didn't love everything he did in the game, and we'll get to that later on when I go through all of my individual player grades. But in terms of the way that he was making plays in coverage, I was super, super impressed. And I think that he's a really integral part of our defense. And so by no means do I want the guy benched or anything like that. I think he's going to be a really great player for us, a good leader for us. And so I'm just really to see Blake kind of bounce back after maybe what I thought was not that great of a game in the first week, even though the defense overall has been playing wonderful. At some point in the game, Jefferson got a face mask, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, here's a guy who is like the face of the league practically, right? I mean, beyond a handful of quarterbacks like Mahomes and guys like that. I mean, Jefferson is a guy that you're gonna, put on commercials and have him be like a face of the NFL. And so I feel like if a guy's gonna grab on his face mask, he's got to be getting those calls. I mean, I'm sorry, this is Justin Jefferson we're talking about. He's got to get those calls. Sam Darnold, he was by far and away the best offensive player in my opinion against the 49ers. Super proud of the way he has started out the year. But I will say this about Sam: by no means is he going to play this well the entire season, and in fact we're seeing it kind of in snippets throughout the first 2 games where I feel like Sam will have 3 or 4 turnover worthy plays throughout the game. Like for instance, on that, I don't know if it was the first drive or second drive, but he had both Jefferson and Munt go in motion. I mean, he didn't intend for them to both go in motion, but I think there was, again, some kind of weirdness with the play call or something that he said in the huddle that threw guys off, or maybe it was the way that he motioned that threw them off. And so he's going to need to get that cleaned up, right? Because that could end up hurting us down the road. But in addition to that was how he just kind of like threw that like freaking skyhook wild pitch towards Jones and nearly turned the ball over. That's the kind of stuff we can't happen, okay? That's the kind of stuff rookie quarterbacks do. Like we see Will Levis making mistakes like that. Sam Darnold can't be making mistakes like that, okay? So things like that, miscommunications in the huddle or with the play call, wild pitches, throwing the ball into coverages when he really shouldn't be. These are the kinds of things, if Sam can start cleaning up those small things and he's playing a much more clean game, I think we could see him start to rise the ranks even further than he already is. Man, that punt by Ryan Wright was perfect. I think it bounced inside the 10 and then was slowly trickling its way down inside the 5 when Dallas Turner came sliding in. And guys have talked about this after the fact, and yes, I think that Dallas was probably thinking of college rules, where I think maybe in college, and again, I don't watch a lot of college football, but I think in college football the rule is that once the ball is touched, it's down. And I think in the NFL, obviously, it's different, where it's like there has to be like some stillness with the player holding onto the ball. And I think he just forgot that. And so, and Dallas, I doubt will be playing special teams, beyond this year. Maybe not even the entire year. He's going to be a really important piece in our defense, so we're not going to need him out on special teams. But for now, yes, it was a mental mistake on him, and I did dock him for that. But honestly, I can understand it. But he did waste a great punt by Ryan Wright, which is really unfortunate, because when you look back at the guy's stats later in the year, you're going to see a touchback. You're not going to see that beautiful punt down to the 1, and so it kind of messes up Ryan Wright's stats a little bit, which is kind of a bummer. But we all saw it. We saw that Ryan Wright put a freaking beautiful, beautiful punt on that one. Another thing I wanted to talk about with Ryan Wright was that we have now a bobble by the punt returner in 2 consecutive weeks, which is super interesting, right? So in the first week, it happened on a bounce, which I thought was kind of like a weird sidewinder kind of a punt, which I thought might have been on purpose. I don't know. On this one, I can't really get like a good look at it necessarily, that the ball was like spinning in any particular way when the punt returner went to catch it, but he muffed it. And so it's got me wondering if Ryan Wright is working on some like new interesting ways of kicking the ball. So I got my eye on him to see if these kind of trends continue. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him so far. Jordan Mason, I talked about him in my game preview show, where I thought, they're probably not going to miss McCaffrey that much because this guy's a really great running back. And I talked about how he's been with the 49ers now for a couple of seasons. This is his 3rd year. He was getting some snaps on offense, playing mostly on special teams. I mean, he earned this opportunity. And yes, obviously McCaffrey, he's on like a Hall of Fame trajectory. When he gets out into the open field, he's more explosive. Clearly, obviously, he's much better in the screen game. But man, for Jordan Mason, he just looks so strong. He's so great on inside runs. He follows his blocks. He breaks tackles. He runs with power. I mean, that's a really good find for the 49ers as an undrafted free agent from a few years ago. I think he ran for 100 yards in this game. So I came away really, really impressed by that guy, and I kind of saw it coming because when I saw him in the Jets game, he impressed me in that game as well. So look out for him going forward, especially as a combo, right, with McCaffrey and Mason, or, if McCaffrey happens to get dinged up again, hey, there you go. You got Mason to come in. So I was impressed. The The special teams had a great game, and man, if Asamoah can pick up that loose ball, and if Dallas can pin that ball down at the 1 yard line, it might have been a perfect game by the special teams. And I'm just super, super impressed with the special teams so far, with Riker just making everything. I think we're onto something really good here. I'm really excited about the special teams. So I'm calling this guy Van G from now on. I don't love the way Gink or Ginkle rolls off my tongue, so I'm calling him Van G from now on. That's my nickname for the guy. Teams better stop running that quick screen against him, at least to his side, because, man, he's looking out for it. He did it almost twice again in this game against the 49ers, where he picked that ball off, and I'm actually going to show you one of those later on in my Go Look. But, man, he is such a smart, heady player in those situations. I mean, I think somebody on another show I had watched, it might have been Caller, I don't know, talked about how he comes across as like a film junkie, and I think that's true. And so I think, man, that guy's a steal right now. He looks like such a steal. I hope we at some point extend him and keep him in purple for a while. Just talking about Mason before, inside runs hurt us just like I thought they would. I don't think that we're a great run defense team on the inside, and I think that if a team commits to the run, I think we might be in some trouble. I mean, the 49ers, I believe, beat us up pretty good in the time of possession, and like I said before, Mason ran for the 100 yards. So they're a really good physical running team, and those kinds of teams I think can take advantage of our defensive line. I don't think we're great defending the run on the inside, and so just watch out for that in the future. We could be exposed a little bit. I don't think it's going to happen this week against the Texans, so no problems there, but maybe in a future game, that topic will come up again. There was one particular play that kind of caught my eye, in that the 49ers, this was one of the rare occasions where I think Shanahan outsmarted Flores. It was a third down, and the 49ers caught us in an all-out blitz. It was like a third and long, like a third and 16, 17, something like that. And I believe Purdy got the ball out. Like, the rush didn't get there. Purdy got the ball out to Kittle, and Kittle, I think, gained about 14, 15 yards and made it like a 4th and short, 4th and 2, 4th and 3, something like that. And it was kind of like beyond our 50-yard line, which then allowed the 49ers to think about going for it, which they did, and they also did convert. And so I just think maybe that's kind of a lesson that even when it's in a third and long situation like that, even if you're going to go all out, even a small dump off like that, if put into the hands of the right guy, can gain 12, 15 yards and give the team an opportunity to decide to go for it and continue a drive. So just something to watch out for in terms of just game planning and scheming on the defensive side. That goal line stand, that was so amazing. I really think, so it happened twice in the game, or not the goal line, but a 4th down stop. The goal line stand later on, there was another 4th down stop. And I just think, honestly, I think O'Connell and Flores are in Shanahan's head, because I felt like he kind of outsmarted himself, went away from his game plan. I really thought that they were going to kind of just play more brute ball, and he would just, in occasions where you thought, oh, he's going to run the ball here, he would then go to pass. And I mean, I think in a way we somewhat got lucky. Yes, Flores obviously outcoached him, but I think, honestly, if Shanahan had just played it a little bit more closer to the vest, he might have actually won this game. Who knows? But I think he really mucked it up by kind of outsmarting himself and trying to run some, kind of like a la circa back to the old Super Bowl, right? The Patriots and Seahawks, where they have Wilson trying to throw that slant. It's like, just hand the ball off to Lynch. And so I just thought, man, at certain points in that game, I thought, why aren't they just handing the ball off to Mason? What are they doing right now? But it worked out in our favor, so I'm all for it. Okay. The Justin Jefferson 97-yard touchdown pass, that play was literally perfect in every way. It's one of my Go Looks. We're going to talk about that play later. It was... Somebody had mentioned this again on another show I was watching, and I can't remember who, but they said it might have been maybe Tyler Fornes. I don't know. Anyway, they said it was as aesthetically pleasing of a play. Actually, I think it was Miles. As aesthetically pleasing of a play as you will ever find in football. I couldn't agree with it more. It was such a beautiful play. And so I can't wait to kind of go over that later. Ty Chandler was such a beast in this game, and I had kind of been a little bit on Ty's case. Hang on, a little bit of dry mouth here. I had been on Ty's case a little bit in the last game, because I was just like, man, he is not following his blocking. He is trying to bounce runs outside when he shouldn't be, and then not bouncing them out when he should. His vision isn't great. I was really kind of down on him. In this game, completely turned it around. I think maybe he went into the film room, saw some things. There were 2 separate drives where I think they handed the ball off to Ty 4 consecutive times, and every single run was a chunk run. He probably gained, on 8 runs, he probably gained like 70 or 80 of his 90, or I think maybe he had 80 total yards in the game. Like 70 of his 80 total yards came on like those 8 runs, 4 on one drive, 4 on the other. We were just owning the 49ers in the run game. It was such a beautiful thing to watch. So good job, Ty. That was awesome. Bosa got Darrisaw a couple of times, I will admit. And listen, as highly as we think of Christian Darrisaw, he is one of the best left tackles in all of football. Nick Bosa quite possibly is the best edge defender in all of football. And so when you're going to go up against a guy like that, you're going to get beat a handful of times, which Bosa did. And fortunately, none of them really hurt us all that bad. And Darrisaw still held up for the most part. I mean, I graded them out as having kind of a down day, which is like, of course he did. Just the way I talked about last week, where Ingram had a down day because he was going against Dexter Lawrence. When you go against literally the best player at his position, I mean, what do you expect? Unless you yourself have the best player at the opposing position, your guy's going to get beat a handful of times. So it happens. So anyway, I thought Darrisaw more or less held his own, which, I mean, that's all we're really asking, right? Against a guy with that much talent. In my opinion, I'm going to talk about Pat Jones the second in a little bit. I thought Pat Jones had quite possibly a perfect game. He did everything right every time he was on the field. He has been spectacular through 2 weeks, not just the 4 sacks. I'm going to point out some other things he did. Against the best tackle in football, no less, who is Trent Williams, or at least considered one of. I got to admit, this is Pat's contract year, and if he keeps playing like this, we're not going to be able to afford to bring him back. And I mean, it's like we've got kind of like our own guys on the come up, and so it's like there may not even be room for Pat. But man, he may be earning himself a big contract this coming free agency, because he is playing out of his mind. Ed Ingram always seems to have one what I would call oof play every game, which you're just like, I want to defend him so badly and just be like, come on, Ed, show us what you got. And then he'll have just like that one play. And I think it was one, I forget at what point in the game it happened, where just Malik Collins just like completely like swim moved him or spin moved him or something and got right into Darnold's face. And I don't remember the result. I don't know if it was like a sack or a pressure or what, but Ed is good for one of those. You just hope it doesn't happen in crucial situations, right? So let's see. Yeah, but all in all, I thought it was a really nice bounce back game for him. I talked about that in my, maybe not the preview, but a couple episodes ago. I'm not totally sure, but I said people were way too down on him. He was going against Dexter Lawrence. Look for him to bounce back. I actually thought he was going to end up matching up on Javon Hargrave the entire game. Turns out he was mostly on Malik Collins, who isn't nearly as talented as Javon Hargrave. And again, I did downplay Hargrave a little bit, because I said he's kind of on his downward trend now in his career. He's getting a little bit older, but he's still like a top third of the league defensive lineman, and he has his moments. And I think that kind of explains why Brandell's grade wasn't quite as good as last week, right? Because he was going against a much better defensive lineman, whereas Ed got to go against Malik Collins, who he looked more like I think they have him playing in kind of like a 3 technique, but they play a 4-3, I believe, and so he looks more like a true nose to me, but I thought Ed did really well against him, and so good job, Ed. Where are we at here? Okay, oh man, that catch by Jihad Ward on I guess it was actually a fumble. I mean, you don't expect defensive linemen to have hands like that, right? I mean, he scraped that thing right off the ground. I mean, it looked like the old immaculate reception in a way, didn't it? That was pretty fun. But man, I am loving what I'm seeing from Jihad so far this year. That guy is, when he moves inside, I mean, he is just an animal, and he's just making plays game after game. And so, man, when I looked at his PFF grades in previous seasons, and in particular with the Giants last year, and how they used him almost exclusively on the outside, and when I just looked at his body type, I was like, why isn't this guy playing on the inside too? And I think Flores probably saw that in him. He's like, here's a guy with versatility who can play outside or inside situationally. told Kwesi, go get him. Kwesi brings him in. And now we're reaping the benefits of this guy. Jihad's playing out of his mind. I mean, there's so many guys on this defense playing out of their mind, but it's also in the way that Flores is putting them in a position to succeed, which is so important. And so I'm loving it. I'm just loving it from Jihad. So, Coach O'Connell, Coach KO, he is starting to develop what I think is a very innate feel of the game. And where I saw this kind of coming into focus was when there were opportunities to put the game away, not put it away, but kind of like strengthen or kind of put it, maybe like strangle the 49ers a little bit more, put a little bit more pressure on them, extend the lead a little bit more. He'd bring the tempo on offense. It was just like there's no fear. And that's one of the things I love most about this team. They are no longer a fearful team. I no longer anyway, I don't know about you guys, I don't sit there on the couch and writhe and have a pit in my stomach and I'm pacing. I don't do that anymore. I feel so calm because O'Connell is so calm, and he understands what to do. He understands situations, and just in those moments when he was bringing the tempo on offense, and you're like, yeah, here we go. The Niners are on their heels, man. We got them. And I mean, it doesn't work out every time, but I love. He's got a great feel for the game, man. He's such a great coach. Our offensive line can and will be dominant in the run game, I think, for the entire season. If we stay healthy and we can stick with these same five, I think that our running game numbers are going to continue to rise and rise and rise. And what's ironic is that our running game is astronomically better than it was last year. But because the entire league is moving more to a running format, we're actually only like 14th in the league in rushing, which is like crazy because we're averaging like 130, 140 yards a game. But the rest of the league, and there's some running quarterbacks out there. And so, I mean, we're kind of getting back to some more bully ball, I guess. We're kind of going old school, back to the 80s or 90s. But anyway, I think our offensive line, yes, does struggle in pass protection at times. But in run blocking, I think we're probably top 5. We're about as good as it gets, in my opinion. So you couple that with a couple of good running backs, and yeah, look out. The Justin Jefferson injury scared the bejesus out of me, dude. I thought, no, not him. Okay, anybody but him. This is a guy who he's going to be chasing down Jerry Rice's records. Okay, that's how freaking great this guy is. He needs to have an opportunity to do that. Freaking leg whips by linebackers. Like, get that crap out of here, dude. Like, I'm so glad it was just a bruise. It sounds like he's going to be back against the Texans. Thank goodness. He needs to be on the field making history. That's how I feel about that. The moment where Kevin Harlan called the highlight for Nate Burleson when I guess Nate Burleson's like mic wasn't, or his earpiece wasn't working or something, and so Kevin Harlan calls the highlight of whatever game it was and then brings it back to the game. That was a great moment. That made me laugh. And I just real quick on Nate Burleson, what an odd guy to just completely ascend the broadcasting world. I mean, he is a star now. He might be the best guy going. I mean, he might literally be the guy that actually brings in the most viewers because he's on the show. He's so good. And so just kudos to Nate Burleson, man. I loved it when he was on the Vikings. He had that great year. I forget what year it was, maybe 2004, where I love that PA call because I remember there was an old clip of highlights I found somewhere on like a message board where PA, it was a long touchdown by Burleson, and he's like, he's killing the Packers this year. That call lives rent free in my head. I just love that so much. PA's the best. Okay, so right off the bat, we proved that we belonged on the field with the 49ers, okay, in every way, shape, and form. We are as good, if not better, than that team. The thing that had me worried going into the fourth quarter was this. Because we had kind of dominated them to that point and yet let them hang around, if we had allowed the 49ers to come back and win that game, it would have completely decimated any kind of like narrative that we could have had in our favor, which is like, we went toe-to-toe with the 49ers. Like, yeah, but you let a lead slip away. You lost it at the last second, so you're not ready for prime time. You're not ready to be winners. And I'm so glad we held on, took care of that game, finished it off, and just told that narrative, get the hell out of here. We are as good as the 49ers, if not better, and we're ready to be contenders in the NFC. Um, Darnold had his moment. Oh yeah. I was just thinking about that in my mind. Darnold had his moment, and it was this. It was, we're up by what, 6, and there's about 10 minutes or 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. No Hawkinson, no Addison, no Jefferson. I think at some point Aaron Jones is out for that drive. He got dinged up a little bit. So you've got Sam Darnold with Jalen Naylor, Brandon Powell, Tristan Jackson. He's got Ty Chandler. And he's just continuously picking up third down after third down, willing us down the field. That beautiful throw to Naylor on that the huge third down the middle where Naylor adjusts back to the ball. And I think that was on purpose, because I think Darnold knew he had to throw that ball away from coverage, and Naylor knew to adjust to the ball in the air. Just what a beautiful throw and catch. And I just, if Sam's going to play like that, and he's going to play in important situations like that, if he can clean up those mental mistakes that he makes, I mean, we could be looking at something pretty special this year. So, I mean, watch out, honestly. Watch out. Brandon Powell. What's with this guy? He's so clutch, and he kills the 49ers. But I think this is something that maybe is understated when it comes to a guy like a Brandon Powell, who's like kind of your number 4 receiver, more or less, is that when you need him, he's there for you. He doesn't drop the ball. He picks up first downs, right? He's making sure his routes are beyond the sticks. And as a punt returner, he doesn't bobble the ball. He doesn't fumble. He's clearly just a solid, good player that you can count on in crucial situations. So I think you probably can't do any better than that for like a 4th receiver in your roster. I think Brandon Powell was an excellent guy to pick up last year and then, re-sign again this year. So well done, guys. Nick Muse, right? Yeah, Nick Muse. Dude, did you see that onside? So it was the very last play. Well, not the last play because we had the kneel downs, but when the punter kicked that ball to the right, it was spinning, dude. I mean, it was spinning fast. And Nick was so clutch to just like hop on that ball and grab it when he did. Because, man, I tell you what, if that ball had bounced away, who knows what happens, right? So clutch play by Nick. Good job. And I just happened to catch this. I'm not really doing I'm doing basically only like just game review stuff in this episode, but I did see that Nick went on to short-term IR. He's out 4 games. Myles Gaskin has been brought up to the 53, and so that's cool. It's like that's why we held on to guys like Tanyan and N'Keal Harry on the practice squad, is that if you get an injury like that, and plus Hawk's back in 3-4 weeks, so I don't think it's going to hurt us too bad. I mean, Johnny, I haven't really been happy with Johnny's performance. He's kind of up and down. Johnny Munt, that is. But, Nick's not really playing a ton. He is playing on special teams, so we're going to need to find a guy to kind of replace him there. But we'll see how it goes. But, I mean, losing Nick for 4 weeks, I mean, we'll survive it. All right. Our defense gave up a lot of yards. So what? Our defense is situationally chaotic, much more opportunistic, right? And I think that has a lot to do, it points to what you would call a bandwidth of talent, right? We're super deep now, and every guy situationally is making plays. And it feels like at the end of games, they're fresher as well, right? Because their snaps are being kept down in a way. And so everybody's contributing. We're going like 17, 18 guys deep on defense, and everybody is contributing. And it's making the defense so much better than maybe people thought it would be at the beginning of the year, because they're looking at our D line, they're like, oh yeah, there's a couple of mediocre guys there and a couple of mediocre guys on the edge, situational guys, and who knows about the linebackers, and you got old Harrison Smith and old cornerbacks, and it's like, no, look at us now, man. Look at us now. So here we go. Just talking about Coach KO again, Coach O'Connell winning another matchup against Shanahan. And he's quickly becoming, at least in my opinion, I'd have to assume nationally as well, known as one of the great offensive minds in the NFL right now. I'm not talking about maybe by the end of this year if he keeps proving himself. No, right now. Okay, he's beating great coaches. He is putting together elite offensive game plans. He is out coaching everybody he comes across. This guy is good now. Okay, so O'Connell, give him his due. We're lucky to have him. He's awesome. I was really happy again. So just getting back to the special teams, I'm so happy for Coach Matt Daniels, because I think we all know that Matt Daniels is a good coach, but we just hadn't really seen the results yet from the special teams unit. Now we're starting to see it. Right now we're starting to see Reichert is solid. Ryan Wright's doing some interesting things with the punting. The coverage units are starting to make some good plays. I saw Jay Ward make a couple of great plays. Obviously CJ Ham with the block, and just there's so many good things that you can look to and say, you know what, Matt Daniels, his time has come. He's finally seeing the fruits of his labor when it comes to the special teams unit. And so, I mean, yet another way that this team could be a legit contender this year. If you're going to be good / great in all phases, all 3 phases, watch out, man. Who can beat us, honestly? Okay, and then finally, in terms of just like my notes, my live game notes, this occurred during the game, is that Jefferson hit 400 receptions and 6,000 receiving yards for his career. We're looking at it, if you take away the games he missed last year from the hamstring, more or less a shade over 3.5 seasons. Okay, so 400 receptions and 6,000 yards in that short of a time. Plus, he's super. What did he just turn 25? I mean, this is unbelievable. He is on clearly a Hall of Fame trajectory, but I'm talking like, will this guy go on to be perhaps the greatest player ever? I don't know. I remember years ago Adrian Peterson talking about how he wanted to be known as the greatest player of all time. Didn't quite happen. He obviously ended up being a Hall of Fame worthy player, but he was too mistake prone to really fall into that category. But man, Jefferson, how exciting is it to have this guy on our team? I mean, he is just the best of the best of the best. And it's so hilarious to me coming out of out of LSU during the draft, talking about how he's just a slot guy. I mean, thank you to the narrative of calling him a slot guy, because that's what allowed him to fall to us at whatever pick it was, 20 or something like that, and to be passed over by the Eagles, who I my best friend is an Eagles fan. He literally every time we talk football, he brings that up. But anyway, okay, so that concludes the live game notes. Okay, and so the next thing I want to do is I want to go over my player grades. Okay, and like I've talked about on previous episodes, I go back, I watch the game myself, I go through play by play, and it's not really like a grade per se. I'm just looking at every play, and I'm concluding whether or not I thought a guy had an impactful, or I guess an impact, whether it be positive or negative on the play. Okay, and so let me pull it up over here too so I can see it as I kind of go through it. So number one, Pat Jones, I had him at a +8, all green across the board. Everything he did in this game was absolutely perfect. He is playing like a stud. I mean, and that's a guy who came out of nowhere. I remember when I was doing my 53 projections, I was like, Pat Jones, who needs him, right? Well, we need him now. So welcome to the club, Pat Jones. Andrew Van Ginkel, or Van G, sorry, as I'm calling him. All green. Again, this guy, unbelievable. He is such a heady player. Like, it's like nobody ever gets the best of him. He's always in the right spot. He always understands what to do in every situation. It can't be overstated. I mean, if you look, I went back to week 1. Look at this, all green, +7. Week 2, +7, all green. Just every game you can count on this guy to just be great. And then just like my next best guy, I had Josh Metellus at a +5. Really, really solid game for him. I think I just had 1 red on him. I had him in it's like I said, it's a +5. Some other guys who were kind of in the green for me. We had Jihad Ward, Taki Taimani. I was so happy to see him in there, dude. He had a great freaking run stop. I wish I had made that one of my go looks. Actually, I didn't, but I would love to go back and watch that play, because again, it's just him holding his ground, taking on a double team, getting an arm out on a guy, right? And I think Pace kind of like finished up the play. Man, I'm so happy for Taki, and it's so weird too, because now when we talk about bringing in like a high-end defensive lineman, either from the draft or free agency or whatever, which I don't even know there's going to be any available in free agency. Free agency is getting thinner and thinner by the year because teams are holding on to their guys. But Taki is making me think, like, man, if this guy continues to develop, do we even need to go get a guy? Is Taki the guy? I don't know. So anyway, Byron Murphy Jr. had a good game, solid. I had him at a +1. He didn't really stick out too much, and I think when it comes to like the secondary and probably also the offensive line, if you're kind of invisible, that's kind of a good thing, because otherwise you're probably getting burned, right? And so I think I did see Byron on the outside again, which I've talked about that I don't like, but it didn't really hurt us. It looked like Purdy was actually looking in Deebo Samuel's direction most of the game, and Deebo got the better of Stephon Gilmore a couple of times, which is to be expected. He's Deebo. But when you consider that Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk basically did nothing in this game, I mean, hey, I'll take it, right? I mean, keep throwing the ball to Deebo over the middle in our zone defenses, and we'll end up stopping you eventually on 4th down, right? Harrison Phillips, had him at a +1. Jonathan Grenard had kind of an active game. He ended up at a +1. He had that penalty. I think it was an offsides penalty earlier in the game. I think he missed a tackle later on, but he's bringing the rush. He's playing good on run defense. He's turning out to be a good quality pickup for us. So Blake Cashman, this one's going to be a little bit controversial, I think, for people, because the narrative all week has been, oh my God, Blake Cashman, did you see him in that game? He did nothing wrong. He was perfect on every play. And I'm like, not necessarily. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. All of his red that I looked at are all in the run defense. And so I just think that points back to, I don't necessarily love how aggressive he is on run defense. I think that at times he can maybe just be okay with taking on that second level blocker and just kind of like allowing that run to develop. But the thing is that that's not really your job. That's the job of the defensive lineman, is to occupy the blockers. It's your job as the linebacker to break away from those blockers and make the tackle, and not 8 yards down the field, but actually create TFLs or stop guys short of the line to gain. And so that is why I'm still a big proponent of Ivan Pace being, at this point, a better linebacker than Blake Cashman, because he just leaves a little bit to be desired in terms of that aggressiveness in the run defense. Now, again, like I talked about very early in the show, his coverage really excites me, because if he's going to play that kind of coverage from the middle linebacker position this year, then yes, I'm okay with him getting a ton of snaps, because we're going to need that. I think we've been missing that for a little while, actually. Cam Bynum, I just had as kind of like a middle of the road game. He can not be great in run support. Dallas Turner, he's not getting a ton of snaps right now, and then of course he hurt his knee, which I'm hearing isn't really serious. I think he was a DNP today on the Wednesday injury report, but if he needs a week to recover, it's probably okay. We've got some good depth at edge. Harrison Smith, I think that PFF actually graded him out pretty high, but I have to go check that. But I had him just kind of having an okay day. And I think, again, when you're looking at these grades, and just to point something out, when I talked about last time I reviewed a game, which was against the Giants, I talked about how when I'm going back and looking at a game and I'm coming out plus 26 green to red on defense and plus 23 green to red on offense, that means we dominated the other team. So then this week, look at it again on defense. I've got plus 22 green to red. On offense, plus 29 green to red. So we literally dominated the Niners. Now you see a little bit more red on the defensive side simply because the 49ers do have a great offense. You look at all the talent on the offense. The offensive line probably isn't as good as it has been in the past, but all of the skill position guys are still there. And so, yeah, you're going to get a little bit of red. It's like, it happens. Like, great teams are going to come along and make you look bad from time to time. It's nothing to worry about. Jerry Tillery, not really active this time around. He didn't even really get anything in the rush department, just an up and down run defense grade, so an even day for him. Jonah Williams, fortunately, didn't stick out like a sore thumb. I was really, really bothered by the fact that he was brought in for this game. simply because I don't think he offers much in run defense, and I felt like that was something we really needed in this game. He did get that one. I mean, you got to give him credit, right? It was that one play where I think Van G, excuse me, tipped it. Harrison Smith batted it down. I think it was on actually the fourth down play at the goal line. On that play, Jonah Williams was left uncovered, and he just completely bull rushed Purdy, and he got a nice legal hit on him, knocking him to the ground. And that's the kind of play you need, right? No mistakes in that situation. Knock the guy to the ground. Let your presence be known. We stopped them on fourth down. So on that particular play, great job, Jonah Williams. I don't really know if I want to see you playing too often this year, but at the very least, it didn't hurt us on Sunday. So, good for that. Stephon Gilmore, kind of an up and down game. Again, he was going up against Debo, I think for the most part, and Debo kind of got the better of him, And there were times when we were kind of just backed off into a zone, and Debo was kind of just finding some soft spots in the zone, and so he was technically Stephon's guy, and my thing was the reason why I kind of graded him down in some portions was simply because. Maybe he was playing a little bit too far off, a little bit too soft, right? Just kind of giving Debo all the yards. And so it's one thing when you're giving a guy 7 yards. It's a whole other thing when you're giving a guy like 18 yards, right? So anyway, but overall, it's like, what more can you ask from your number one corner than to at least hold his own against the number one receiver? And then, my two worst guys on the day were Ivan Pace Jr. and Jonathan Bullard. Ivan... I don't know if maybe he got exposed a little bit because he did get more snaps in this game as compared to the last game, because I did complain about that. I thought he deserved more snaps because I just felt like every time he was on the field he played like an all-pro. Well, he got more snaps in this one, and maybe he does need fewer snaps. Maybe because of his body type he does get beat up or a little bit tired, because I noticed that he missed several tackles throughout this game. And sometimes it can be him just trying to pull that move where he tries to avoid a blocker and slither and kind of get a guy with an arm. The Niners, I think, are just because they're a more physical team, they run through stuff like that. You can't really get them down with like an arm on the shin, So Pace didn't have the best game, but really it was only a -2. It wasn't like a -5 or anything. So all in all, not bad. He had his moments. And here was something that was really crazy, and I think it's because the 49ers kind of forced the issue in terms of bringing the bully ball to you in a way, was that both Cashman and Pace were super, super active in this game. So you had, Cashman I graded on 14 separate plays, and then Pace I graded on 10 different plays, right? So it's like both linebackers were very, very active in this game. The 49ers forced them to play. And fortunately, they answered the call. And then the other guy who I just thought didn't have that great a game was Jonathan Bullard. He had a penalty, didn't look good in run defense. And, that's kind of how I feel about him. So, I think we can upgrade that position next year. We'll see. All right, now we're over to the offense, man. This is... actually, I need to move this over so you can see it. Sam Darnold, my man, dude, with the +9. Best offensive player of the day. I mean, we don't win that game without him. He was excellent, excellent, excellent. Way to go, Sam. I love it. I love it. Spent that 1 year in San Francisco, comes back and beats the mentor, right? You got to love that. Ty Chandler, I talked about Ty. I had him at a +6. What a great game for him. I mean, just look at this. Green, run. I mean, he just, every time he had the ball in his hands, man, he was explosive. It was awesome. Garrett Bradbury with a nice bounce back game. I have him at a +4. He just had one poor pass blocking snap, in my opinion. Everything else, man, he looked good. And against a team like the 49ers, you're thinking there's no way Garrett Bradbury has a great game, right? Yeah, he did. He had a wonderful game. Another guy who really stood out, because again, we ran the ball so well. Josh Oliver had a +4. He's just, look at this run block. He was run blocking like a beast. So good. And then Jefferson I had at a +4. Honestly, he probably would have ended up way higher if he had finished the game. But just for what he did in that game, I think he just had the 4 catches, of course, the 97-yarder. So he was impressive. Here's an interesting one, right? I think that people would probably think that Aaron Jones would be knocked down a little bit because of that, that fumble at the goal line, which was unfortunate because we were about to go up pretty big there. Aaron still had a really solid game. I mean, every time this guy has the ball in his hands, so long as he's not fumbling it, he is just, man, as good as it gets at the running back position. I mean, you got to say it. He is just so good. I'm so excited to have him on the team. Jalen Naylor, here's another guy, really rising up right after his first two injury-plagued years. He's finally getting his chance. Touchdowns in the first two games. Had him at a +3, so I love seeing Jalen ascending. I mean, if Jalen continues to play like this, when you have Jefferson and Addison and Naylor and Hawkinson and Jones, who else, other than like a handful of teams can match that kind of skill position power? I mean, we've got it in spades. Brandon Powell coming through with the +2, right, with the clutch catches on that final drive. I love that. Ed Ingram actually ended up with a +1. I thought he had a nice bounce back game with that one just terrible pass blocking rep against Collins. Sherfield had one nice catch. Johnny Munt, he ended up evening out. He also had a nice catch on that last drive. And I think he had a good run block at some point. I think he was just totally sealing off the edge against Bosa to open up a Ty Chandler run. So overall, an even day for him. Brian O'Neill, just the -1. I think he had one bad rep, probably against Bosa again. Which, ironically, I talked about this when I talked about the downgrade in overall talent, I guess, right? With the changes in the players going from last year to this year, was that they have a new veteran guy playing opposite Bosa, which is Leonard Floyd, and they probably mix in some other guys too. I don't know their team that well, but Leonard Floyd, that guy was freaking silent the whole game, right? And I think Darrisaw and O'Neal have a lot to do that. So chances are this one red pass block grade I have for O'Neal is probably against Bosa again. And then just the guys that I thought kind of had the worst days were Brandell and Darrisaw. I had them both at a -4. Again, the Bosa factor for Darrisaw, probably the Hargrave factor for Brandell. It's like, I mean, listen, this is his first year as a starter, okay? He's not going to come in and start dominating Javon Hargrave. You know what I mean? Even though he's, getting a little bit older. So look for Brandell to continue to improve, and there will come a day, maybe even this year, when he goes up against a defensive tackle who may be better than him, but he still gets the better of him in the game. So I look forward to that. Again, I think very highly of the offensive line right now. Okay, so then finally, we're looking at special teams now. So CJ Ham, in addition, on that one particular play, which, I mean, honestly, those are the types of plays that change a game from one direction to the other, right? It completely changes the momentum. You're kind of going back and forth. It might be a 3-point game, something like that. Boom. Blocked punt, great field position, and the game has just completely spun on its head. And that's what CJ gave us in that game, and we needed that so badly. Such a great play by CJ. I'm just so happy to have him on special teams. There were times when I was thinking, like, maybe we should just let CJ go. Clearly they love him. He's a great team leader. Just a great guy in the community, obviously. But, like, then you also get this type of stuff from him on special teams, and that's what I'm talking about. And so I have talked about Jay Ward quite a bit in terms of special teams. I think that he is a top flight guy on special teams. He's coming through with a +2 for me. He had a great kick coverage snap, and he also had a great punt coverage snap. If you notice that play where the punt returner bobbled the ball, Jay Ward was literally right in his face. And then he had, I think the 49ers returned just one kick in the game, if I'm remembering correctly. And it might have even been Deebo Samuel. And, I mean, I think he stopped him before the 20, or maybe at the 20. I mean, Jay Ward completely rocked his world. So what a great play by him. Obviously, I've talked about Ryan Wright. I thought he had two excellent punts in this game. Caleb Evans, he's been kind of shocking me a little bit on special teams. I didn't expect that of him. He also had a good kickoff coverage snap. I don't know if it was the same one with Jay Ward, but it might have been both of them coming together and making that tackle. Nick Muse, got to give him huge credit for that recovery on the onside. I mean, that was just so clutch of him. Theo, I loved him picking up the ball after the hand block. I would have loved to have seen him to have gotten in the end zone there. He didn't quite have the speed, and the guy clipped him from behind. But, man, what a great just heady play for Theo to just grab that ball and just take off with it. And then I'm kind of down on Brian Asamoah. I keep talking about him, and then I noticed that we brought in some guys like Quan and Alexander and some other guys, and I think maybe that's because they're not loving what they're seeing from Asamoah. He had two plays in this game where he was just out of control. On the kickoff return, where Jay Ward and Caleb Evans made a great tackle, you'll notice a guy go flying by. It's Brian Asamoah. And then just the freaking, and I forgot to mention this during my live notes, but I'm like, oh my God, can we get a damn loose ball? I mean, Theo proved, yes, we can. But on that punt where the returner bobbled it when Jay Ward was in his face and the ball's on the ground, who's the guy who comes flying in, who has a first chance of the recovery? Brian freaking Asamoah. And what does he do? He does not recover it. He just slams into the ball, and it goes flying, and he goes flying. And then the 49ers end up recovering. And I'm just like, Brian, play with some damn control, man. It's like, yes, we get it. You're an amazing athlete, but it's like, you got to make the plays, dude. So anyway, so that's that. Here we go. We're at 50 minutes. This is awesome. I got 10 minutes left to talk about. Let's make sure I bring it up here. Okay, so I've got it. Do we have it set at the beginning? Yes. Here is my go look, right? We got 5 plays that I pick out from the previous game, and I'm telling you to go look at them because they're interesting and they're cool, and I want you to see what these players do on these plays. So we're gonna bring this up. Here comes the browser. Boom. Okay, so I chopped this up myself, and I just want to, let's see. Are you seeing my mouse? You aren't. Anyway, we're gonna play this first one here. Okay, on this play, can't see. Anyway, that's a bummer. There it is. There we go. Okay. You've got Pat Jones right here. Okay. Who do you got right here? Left tackle, Trent Williams. On this play, watch Pat on this pass rush. He at some point gets Trent turned around and pushes Trent all the way back into Purdy. And then it forces Purdy to just make like an errant throw. And this was on a 3rd down and 5. Huge play, right? So let's watch Pat handle his business here. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Oh, man. Beautiful. That's Pat Jones. That is Pat Jones against Trent Williams. Just owning him. All right, next play up. Okay. This is one. I love this because I've been talking about Vanjie through the first 2 games that he, again, smart. So, and he does it all. He defends the run. He rushes the passer. He can pick off the ball. He gets his hands up and tips balls. He plays passing lanes. So watch this. On this play, here's Van Ginkel right here. You're going to see him. He understands what's happening. He's going to see a couple guys come out here. Purdy's going to be looking out this way. He's going to cut off not 1 but 2 passing lanes. Then actually end up with a sack as well. So he completely throws Purdy off on this play. Watch this play from Vanjie. Here he goes. Gets the chip. Pass lane, boom, gets the sack. I mean, you can't do it any better than that, man. That's so good. Okay, here we go. So on this play, oh, here's the big one. Here's the 97-yard touchdown. What I want to point out is, in addition to obviously Darnold throwing a beautiful ball, I think about 55 yards in the air to, I think Jefferson's lined up here in the slot. You got to look at O'Neal, who handles Bosa on his own. He kind of like takes him on this outside route to make sure that Darnold has room to step up. Then you've got Bradbury. He's actually going to pick up. Warner's going to blitz on this play. He's going to pick up Warner, move him to the outside this way, and I think Jones is going to help on the play. The most important blocker, in my opinion, on this play is Ingram. Ingram has Collins one-on-one, and not only does he beat him, he pushes him backwards and gives Darnold a huge amount of space to like crow hop his way into this throw and get it right into Jefferson's hands. This play is beautiful. Let's watch it. Watch Ingram. Just watch him just own this guy. Get out of here. Darnold steps up. Here's the throw. Jets actually. We're going to have JJ to Jets next year. There you go. Scoring a touchdown so huge too, because if you don't quite get in, you never know. It gets all the way in, man. So impressive. He's the best. Okay, here we go. Here is, oh man, this one goes unnoticed, honestly, because hang on. what happens here, so this is the very first defensive play after the big Jefferson touchdown. I almost feel like maybe Shanahan was thinking, okay, they're kind of like excited right now. I'm going to catch them in a little whatnot, something they're not expecting. So what happens here actually is use check. This is going to be a little planned screen for use check out here. Okay, so what Jones is going to do, Pat Jones, he's going to come in, he's going to completely just bully into Trent Williams and then also bully into use check simultaneously, not allowing use check to get out for the screen, and then Purdy just ends up kind of just dropping the ball over his head. So just watch Jones just totally blow this play up. It's so good. Just there you go. Just give him a big hit there. Yep. Oh man, so good. So good. I love it. Pat Jones out of his mind in this game. Okay, here we go. Final play. Okay, this is the play where, again, we're talking, it's 23-14. You got a minute 57 left in the game. Okay, it's 3rd down and 1, right? So they don't even need a touchdown here. They can still pick up a first down, but they're probably hoping to get a touchdown because then if they score, maybe there's like 150 left. They probably... I don't know how much time that would leave them, but they don't have any timeouts here, as I can see. So who knows if they kick off all the way, and then if they stop us on 3 plays, how much time they would have even had left to try and get into field goal range for the win. But regardless of that, here they go again, thinking they're going to get the better of Van Ginkel. Yeah, freaking right, or Van G rather. He sees it right away. He understands. He knows they're throwing this ball out to Debo here. They're going to try and take advantage of Bynum and Smith, right? They're going to have this guy. I think this is Kittle, who is an excellent blocker. As we know, he's going to handle Smith. This looks like Jennings here. He's probably going to try and handle Bynum. And Debo's just going to waltz into the end zone for a touchdown. And Van G says no. He doesn't quite get the pick. He about nearly, I think he bobbles it, and then, but the thing that I thought was funniest about this play was that he doesn't quite get the interception, but he still gets the tackle, right? Because he's just that good. So here, let's watch this final go look play, my 5th of 5. Boom, there he is. And so I also included the little replay action right after the fact. There he is, just boom, taking that ball. Oh man, he could have had that. He might have taken that all the way. It would have been so fun, but Debo grabs it. He still gets the tackle. So anyway, so that, man, it's just so much fun. So here, we're going to wrap this up. We're at 57 minutes. Here, let's bring it up. Back to main cam. Okay, so what a game, right? I mean, our Vikings are 2-0. They played out of their minds. They dominated offensively and defensively. The special teams is even playing great. This team is going places. I don't know what to expect against Houston, but I gotta admit, when you have coaches like O'Connell and Flores, I mean, we can compete with anybody. And if Darnold starts to clean up his game and continues to play the way he has, the sky's the limit. Honestly, I mean, purple Kool-Aid. I mean, that's what I'm all about, right? So anyway, as you know, guys, the final words of the show are this, right? As we have been doing through 2 weeks, play vicious and be victorious. Peace.